Hey there, Amanda with the Happy Homestead. Welcome back to the homestead property. I'm here in the garden today, and I've already been out here for about an hour and a half watering and picking off bugs and trellising. And so forgive me for being a little sweaty, a little hot. I try to do everything so early in the morning because it just gets so hot. I'm sure you feel the same way at times. All right, but I'm here in the onion patch. Now I planted these onions, I believe it was either the end of January or beginning of February. I'd have to go back and look. But they are ready to come out. These are all sets from Dixondale Farms. And if you didn't see that video of me actually planting the onion sets, click above because that is where I show you everything I got, how I put it in the ground. And so it's been almost 6 months now, 180 days. And so I can tell a lot of these are ready to come. Now, honestly, I'm pulling all of them because the weeds are starting to take over. Now, so if you look at that original video, you'll see how beautiful it looks with no weeds and just the wood chips. And the weeds are just, once again, mind-blowing. They're everywhere. So I'm going to pull all of our onions today because really they're just ready, and then we're going to cure them, and then we'll braid them, and we'll see how big of a harvest we get. So I'm just going to start. Normally you can probably just pull on the onions, like that one comes up pretty easy, but I have my like for that one it didn't, right? So I have my shovel with me just to help loosen. It's really those smaller ones that the necks are breaking. So 2.5 rows are done. Look, I mean, my bucket is already full. I want to show you though. Look at this red onion in my hand. This is a grocery store onion. I'm so excited. There's a white one in there that I'll show you when I get home too that is huge. I think it's bigger than that one. So I'm going to get the rest of these done and then we'll take these home. Guys, I am so proud of this harvest. I really am. There's a lot of medium-sized bulbs and there are a handful of smaller bulbs. The smaller bulbs I will set aside and probably just cook with like you would kind of like a pearl onion, or put them in the refrigerator and use them for fresh onions and cooking onions first before anything else. But we are done. I am so pleased. But I'm done. I am so pleased. I'm so happy. I'm happy with my harvest. Last year was my first year growing onions and I had the most pitiful harvest because of the weeds. And so even though the weeds were a force to be reckoned with today and this season, I still did so much better. And I believe it's because of the wood chips. Now, if I had been better about pulling weeds and maybe putting more wood chips down, I probably wouldn't even have as many weeds as I do, and I might have bigger onions. But all in all, success on the homestead. So I will take you home and we're gonna get these cured. I need a shower first. We'll be back in just a minute. Welcome back. We're in the kitchen, and so it has been 8 days since I harvested our onions and you saw me put them out. So what I did is I put them out on our front porch. It's a covered front porch. We just have a bench out there, and that's where I cure my garlic and my onions. I kind of lay everything out. You don't want everything really on top of each other. You want as much airflow as possible around your onions or your garlic. It's the same process. So that's how it cures. And by curing, it's drying, right? Everything is getting good airflow. It's drying out. There's no mold. There's no rot. It could happen, right? So you keep an eye on it and keep good space and just move them around every couple of days. So it's been 8 days since I put them out there. I've got some here on the counter I'm gonna show you. They are not all ready, right? So I have a handful of the yellow onions. Let me just show you right now. I have a handful of the yellow onions that are ready to be braided, but really all the white and red onions still have very much green stems. And so when you can tell by looking at it that it's green, you can feel it. There is still moisture in these. The red and the white onions are not yet ready to be braided, right? Here's the yellow, and you can see the difference here with the stems. You can tell that they are much more dried out. They're a little bit more brittle. And so the yellow onions are really ready to be braided, and that's what we're gonna do today. So because the white and the red are still out there, I'm really gonna let them cure for probably another week, week and a half. There is no set time for curing your onions or your garlic. It's all about your environment. Are they inside? Are they outside? You don't want them exposed to the weather, right, to rain. So please have them covered if you're outside. But if you're inside, it's probably a lot less humid and it's a lot more dry maybe. So it's just really about where they are and how much time is it's gonna take. I usually go for about 2 weeks total for both, and usually I find that works. But again, keep an eye on it and making sure that you're getting that good brittle stem. So before we go into the braiding, the other thing I wanted to show you, you may have seen me talk about these bags back in the beginning of the year. This is where I stored all of the onions that I had purchased from Azure Standard for the 3 Rivers Challenge. And I love these bags. They're breathable. They have a little Velcro hole here so that I can easily get onions from the bottom of the bag. Now, these onions are onions from our garden. These are ones that I had harvested probably about 4 weeks ago now, and they have properly cured. And the reason they're in here is because the stems all broke when I did harvest these. So that's why these are in here. But you can always store your onions in some sort of breathable mesh bag, and then I just hang this in our pantry, and that way you have them easily accessible as well if you don't feel like going to the trouble of braiding. So I will link those mesh bags below in the show notes so you can check them out and get some if you'd like. Now, as I was going through these onions, right, there's a few here that don't have a braidable stem. I think it's these 5, right? So I'm gonna do the same thing that you just saw with those other ones. I'm just gonna clean these up a bit and put them in that mesh bag. So I'm gonna set those aside. And then this one, as I was picking up, I wanted to show you. It may be hard to tell. It has a little bit of rot right here. It's a wet spot, it's soft. So I'm gonna clean this onion up, put it in the refrigerator, and then I will use this one this week for cooking, fresh cooking, and I'll just cut that spot off. All right, but now we've got our braidable onions. Now, what I like to do is just kind of take my hands and maybe get some of that dirt, the papery dirt off. It's not gonna be perfect. It's not gonna look like your onions in the grocery store. You don't want to take too much of this outer layer off because really that's partly of what's been curing. I just want to get some of this dirt off. And then obviously when I use them to cook them, I will peel back to the good part of the onion, right? We're not going to use the dirty paper. Right, but I just take my hand. You could take a very soft bristle brush too, and then I kind of pull the roots off. Like here's some pretty long roots, just gonna pull those off. You could take some scissors and trim them. I do that with my garlic. I just trim them with the scissors. And again, this process that I'm showing you, it works for garlic too. But remember, it only works for the soft neck garlic. You can't braid hard neck garlic. You can try, but it won't be as pretty. And so onions are only ever soft neck. There's no such thing as a hard neck. When they're still pretty green, they might feel hard, but they will soften up as the onions cure. Now, these are all short day onions. I don't think I mentioned that when I was harvesting them, but they are all short day onions from Dixondale Farms. I bought them as sets and planted them back in the beginning of the year. These yellow ones are the Texas Legend variety. And then I've got Red Creole, and this is, I think, Texas White. Now, I really like the yellow onions. I did 4 kinds of onions, and then there was like a blush one. I will most likely stick with a yellow and a red just for next year and make it simple with only 2 varieties, but I wanted to try some different things out. All right, as far as your braiding, hopefully you have some knowledge on how to braid in general. But I usually start with my 3 biggest onions, 1 in the middle, 2 on the ends, and then I'll start the braid. And then you put the next one in the middle with that middle stem. Hopefully this is coming across okay. And then this one's gonna come over with this one. And this one's gonna come over with this one. Just kind of keep layering. The tighter you get it, the prettier it will be hanging. Now, I don't have too many onions here, guys, so there we go. I'm gonna put that one in the middle. Now continue. Okay, once you get towards the end, I'm gonna put a rubber band here. You could also tie it with some twine, garden string, just something that's gonna hold it together. I like a rubber band because then I can actually use part of the rubber band to hang it. I'm gonna trim up this end here, make that look a little cleaner. And there is our onion braid. That really was simple. So, and it's heavy, so you wanna make sure you put it somewhere that it can hold. So I will probably take one of these rubber band pieces and hang it on a hook in our pantry. And then as you need an onion, I usually recommend pulling from the top. So I would just clip the onion off with the scissors, right? Just like this. And that way everything else stays intact. I'm just taking from the top and then I work my way down. And that's how you pull from your onion braid. Again, same thing with the garlic braid, do the same. You're gonna wanna store your onions in a cool, dark place. It's really no different than a store-bought onion, right? You don't wanna keep it out where there's a lot of humidity. You don't want to keep it over your stove, right? If you're cooking and all the humidity from your cooking, you want to keep it in a cool, dark place. So as cool as you can get, as dark as you can get, and then they will last for hopefully a few months. I usually get a good 3 to 4 months out of these, and then eventually they may start sprouting, just like any other grocery store onion or garlic. And then by then it starts sprouting, just start using them, right? figure out a way to get them used. Thank you for joining me on the onion harvest and the onion preservation here in our home, in our homestead. I hope you'll consider growing onions next year in your garden. It really is pretty simple. Check out Dixondale Farms. I'll link them below, and you can learn all about the different onions they offer and which is good for your area. You're going to be looking at long day onions, short day onions, and intermediate onions, which is in between the two. Depending upon where you are in the world, you'll decide between the long and the short day or the intermediate, and it's all about how many hours of sunlight you get a day. But Dixondale Farms makes it really easy to figure that out. I'll see you next time. Stay healthy, stay well. Bye-bye.